are listening to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast, a place to empower women of color in the music business. Welcome to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast. This is your host, Janisha Jones, back with another special guest. Today we have Brittney King Brock. Brittney is a music industry vet who's founded King Creative Group, an entertainment conglomerate specializing in talent management, public relations, content development, and production. She's led a long-standing career as an A&R, working for some of the most revered artists of our millennia, from Usher and Justin Bieber to Diddy and Lil Baby. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Brittney as we're both advocates for women of color in the music industry. And she's truly a force to be reckoned with. So I knew I just had to have her on the show. So without further ado, welcome Brittney to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast. How you feeling?
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
I'm excited to have you here. Like I was mentioning earlier, I consider you a GOAT in the industry. And I know that you have just so much experience that you can lend to women like me. So thank you. Let's just go ahead and dive right in.
Let's do it.
Why don't you tell us about your journey through the music industry and what roles led you to becoming an A&R as well as starting your own creative artist services platform?
So my journey started like most people. I started as an intern when I was a student at Clark Atlanta University. I always knew that it was fun to music. Like when I was a child, I was very active in the arts and the music community. I played clarinet, xylophone, piano, very musically inclined. And so I never necessarily wanted to be an artist, but I just was really just a fan of music. And as a child, like I used to sit in my room and listen to CDs all day. I know you're probably too young to know about the CD life, but I used to have a whole, CD tower with hundreds of CDs. And that was really how I started to study the people who were behind the scenes. I used to read the credit liners. And every Friday, my dad, after he picked me up from school, he would take me to the record store and I would be able to pick out a new CD every Friday. And that's how I built out my music collection. From there, I was like, as I read the back of the liners, I would see executive produced by this person, managed by this person. I just started to learn, oh, wow, like these are actual human beings that are behind the artist. And it just set me on a path of wanting to research and discover what the potential opportunities were, because I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. I didn't have a shoe into the music business. I don't come from family with money or anybody who could walk me in. And so I had to literally go on my journey seeking it. And so one of the reasons why I chose to go to school in Atlanta was because it was a thriving music scene. So I came with the intention of like, I'm going to Atlanta to go to college, but my goal is to figure out how I'm going to get into the music business. So my freshman year, while I was a student, I saw like literally a flyer on like the promenade that said interns wanted. And it was a super like janky looking flyer, but I was 17, 18, whatever. You don't have any fear at that point. It was like music interns wanted, call this number. And I called the number and it was super random. It was like some dudes in the background kicking and screaming. I'm like, hey, I'm calling about the flyer for interns. And that internship actually ended up being for DJ Drama. And I was DJ Drama and the Affiliates right when they started the Gangsta Girls mixtape series. I was DJ Drama's very first intern. He didn't know what an intern was supposed to do. I didn't know what an intern was supposed to do. But I was literally helping him with putting the CD inserts together, carrying the crates in the clubs. He was still DJing. They were still in the clubs at that time. And that was my entry point. And so I did that for about maybe a year and a half, 2 years, where I was DJ Drama and Canon and Census intern. And then that's what led me into other opportunities in music. And I think for me, A&R is kind of where I started by default, because the people that I feel like A&R is one of those areas that's highly coveted in the music business. And everybody wants to be an A&R until you're able to be an A&R. And I'm like, I don't really know if I want to be in the studio 18 hours a day for the rest of my life. So as I started to like get more knowledgeable about all of the different areas of the business and not just the areas that are popular, that's what set me on a path of kind of venturing off into publishing and management and operations and all of these other areas of the business as well. So Did I answer your question?
I love that. Definitely. Man, first of all, so many bars in there. Let's start from the beginning. So your passion was about creating music as an instrumentalist. How important is it, having that background, becoming an A&R? I'm sure that helps facilitate the process for you as an A&R.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something. Music is my first love. Like I still love going to live music. I love going to see live music. That's where I literally just feel fed when it comes to music. So that's also my approach. Right now, I'm not as much of a creative A&R as I was when I was like starting out. I give my input, especially when I'm working with newer artists that may need more direction. But a lot of the artists that I worked with, they already, had a sound crafted to where my job was really to help to amplify it, help bring other creatives to the table, challenge them in thought sometimes to where like if you traditionally do a record this way, how about maybe you try this type of record or work with someone that maybe you traditionally wouldn't work with. But that for me just all goes down to just being a lover of music and a part of the art and the artistry is giving yourself the freedom to create. And that's like being what creative is. It's like not falling into a specific box of what it's supposed to sound like. And I think a lot of times artists, we put them in those boxes, and I'm very much of a fan of artists who don't allow that and are genreless, because I think music should be able to have that level of flexibility, and that's what makes it special. The cookie cutter approach at all.
I love that. And I feel like that is going to resonate a lot. I get those questions from artists. Like they think there's a formula to it that they have to follow when it's really just tapping into what makes you special. Like what is it that you're doing? What's your story that is unique and valuable, and to tap into that. And you have to leave room for the magic. So you can use data as much as you want, analytics, to find out how to target audiences and things of that nature. But in terms of your creative prowess, to really tap into the uniqueness of it. Quality of you as an artist. So
I'm a huge proponent. I say it all the time. Data should be used as a tool. It should not be used as the only tool. Exactly. It should be one tool in the toolbox that you use for whatever knowledge you're seeking. And I think there are too many companies and too many people, in my personal opinion, that are allowing data to be the end all be all, and it should not be. You should still be able to have that intuition. You should still be able to identify and groom something special. I believe in artist development. All the artists that I've been a part of have been legendary artists. And so people who literally like craft their art, they know what's unique to them. And I understand at the end of the day it's business, but I hope and I pray that we as a culture in the music business really get back to a place of protecting the arts. Because
I agree. Oh my gosh, it's such a major key, the artist development aspect to it. Like that is what creates longevity in the music industry. And sadly, we place value on something that's so intrinsic. Like everybody's perspective on music is going to be different. So to just say, okay, we're going to place this sound is worth this much, I don't think that's fair to anyone. So yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. And you also said something about entering into the industry and how like you did come from a place of privilege to be able to enter via relationships or just from privilege, essentially, just from that lane, having to work from the ground up. Can you speak to that a little bit about like your journey? Like I know you said that you found a flyer and you just kind of went for it, but what was the process in terms of like being taken seriously, going from an internship and moving into the music industry?
So for me, I have always been a very confident person. I believe in myself, the type of person that when I set my mind to when I want something, I get it. And I'm very laser focused in my thought process. And so for me, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so I knew that the music business was not an easy road. There were several moments along my path where my parents did not understand what I was chasing. They knew that they were paying for me to go to school. And then I was saying that I wanted to work in this industry that nobody even had an understanding of. And they wanted me to go the safe route with working for the government and doing more corporate jobs. Whereas I just knew my personality and that wouldn't work for me. No disrespect to anyone that it does work for. I just knew that that wasn't what I was chasing. And so I knew it wasn't going to be an easy route, but I also knew that I had the fortitude to be able to persevere through whatever came my way. And I also knew that there was a purpose behind it. I knew that, especially as I got more into the industry and I saw how dark it was, oftentimes it made me want to give up, and it made me want to walk the other direction, because I oftentimes was around people who just had heavy spirits that made me be like, ooh, I don't want to get that on me. So let me walk away. But then I had to realize that's why you're there. That's why you're in the room, to be that lighter energy and to be the opposite of what the culture is. And more importantly, artists need that. Which is why I'm really big into advocating for mental health. I'm really big into advocating for really having those safe spaces to talk for both executives and creatives, because it's a hard road for women. It's a hard road for women of color. Even now we're witnessing change when it comes to seeing more women in executive seats, but a lot of it, and I hate to say it, I don't want Black women to be a trend.
Right. Facts. Talk about it.
You know what I'm saying? I want you to rock with us because you rock with us and you see our value. And there's just way too many conversations that are taking place offline with people that are getting amazing opportunities and looks, but behind the scenes are not really being empowered in their roles. And I personally can speak to that because I experienced it as well. And so I think as a woman, it's time for us to come together more in a community of sharing resources, being able to say, hey, I had this experience and this is how I handled it. Or being able to call another woman when you're trying to walk through negotiating your contract or, taking on a new job. Because what I realized, and at first I was a part of the problem because I was I won't say I was a mean girl, but I was like, oh, I got to get it and blah, blah, blah. And then I realized this shit is hard. And it's hard for me. It's hard for her. It's hard for her. So instead of each one of us kind of putting that wall up, let's actually build community. Let's share resources. And so I think that we need more of that, which is what motivated me to, do some of the things that I'm doing with women like me in the community that I'm building, how I hire and how I lead for my team with King Creative Group. Is I'm being what I wanted to see in other companies and other leaders that I didn't see. So that's and I don't know if I'm answering your questions.
No, I'm just listening because like I said, I'm honestly you're dropping so many gems right now that it's everything that you mentioned, I'm experiencing now, especially learning people's positions and their strategy. Everybody wants something, so you're trying to learn what everyone's angle is and still trying to keep, like you said, a lightheartedness about it. You're in this for a reason. You have a purpose and a mission that you're also trying to accomplish. And then, as someone who's created a data analysis about women of color in the music industry, it's kind of legitimized a lot of the things that you were saying, like how we're having to cross collaborate more now than ever because there are gatekeepers, but we're all challenged because there's only one or two of us in the room.
Yeah.
We need more of us in those positions to say, hey, no, I'm not a monolith. We're not a monolith. And that reflects directly into the content as well, like what we're seeing promoted in the music is this one image and this one sound, and that's a direct result of us not being in those rooms. So and we're the culture creators. That's the other part. It's they're happy with capitalizing off of us and the talent that we bring, but not necessarily want our voices to be heard. So we have to band together if we're as a unified front in order to make any kind of real meaningful changes there. So, and I would love to hear more about your holistic and wellness endeavors.
Yeah, so I basically, I would say kind of going on my path, if you will, maybe about 2016, 2015, 2016, I was approaching 30. I was at a point in my life where all of the goals that I had set out for in terms of get in the music business, be able to work with this type of artist, blah, blah, I had hit a lot of those benchmarks. And I also realized what came with that. It came with burnout. It came with depression. It came with anxiety. It came with stress. It came with weight gain. It came with all these things. So where as I was maybe 28, 29, at the time I was working as an A&R for Music Mogul, who on the surface, everything was great. If people were to look at my life, it's oh my God, you're flying in private jets every day. You're traveling with this person who's this big celebrity. You have the life, right? But on the inside, I was literally struggling to keep my head above water. Wow. I was working 18-hour days. I was eating whatever was in front of me, not treating my body like the temple that it is. I didn't have a life. My life was my job. And so as I started to really like think about what I wanted my life to be, I said, this isn't sustainable. Like this is cool while I'm in my 20s, but this type of lifestyle at the pace that it's going is not what I want for me. And so that sent me on a path of like dreaming a new dream. And what do you want your life to look like? And what do you care about outside of work? Who are you outside of work? And so that kind of set me on a path of just personal discovery. And as I went through my process, shedding certain things from things that you just pick up as a child and these beliefs that you have about yourself, and realizing that you're putting all this energy into a job because you think that it's filling a void and you're not wanting to deal with the true you and the real stuff, right? So just send me on a path. And so that is what led me to wanting to start Women Like Me, because I'm like, okay, a lot of my relationships have changed. My friend circle has changed. I need new friends. I need new energy. I'm sure there are other women like me who are going through these same like growing pains, right? And so I wanted to start a community that was basically like a holistic perspective of what wellness needed to look like from an emotional perspective, financial, physical, professional, as well as spiritual. And so that's what led me to, you know, having this idea. And I had it for a while before I actually like executed it, because I didn't know what to do or when to do it or how to do it. So I sat on it. I just sat on it for a minute. And then right before the pandemic, I wanted to start it off with it being just like, my original idea was for it to be a community where we just do different activities together every month, where we do different professional workshops. We might go hiking. We might, you know, go to a winery and do something fun. It's for women who are high achievers to have a life outside of what they do and to get to know themselves on a more basic level than a job or any other title that they've assumed in their life. And so the goal was to do the monthly events and kind of build community from there. And then the pandemic hit. And so when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, crap, that throws out my idea of doing the events. And so I pivoted to starting a podcast. Podcast was not my original idea. It was maybe a down the line idea, but it wasn't like an off the ground idea. And so I started with the Women Like Me podcast because I just wanted to get the idea out. And so I started with having conversations with other women who are in, you know, music, who are in creative industries, who are also wellness advocates or trying to pursue their own path. And we talk about the hurdles. We talk about the highs. We talk about the lows. We talk about, you know, things that we've experienced, kind of like going back to what we shared earlier about that community and that safe space. Like that's my goal. And it's something that is still evolving. I welcome input and people to be a part of it, because I think that we all are going through our journeys, and me being able to share with someone who is coming behind me is important to me, but also me being able to learn from someone who is maybe 2 steps ahead, you know, to where I don't have to go through the same things that maybe they've experienced, and the person behind me doesn't have to go through the same things that I've experienced, you know? And so that's what it is. And so you want to be a part of it.
Honest. Oh, are you kidding me? Absolutely. Well, and that's the beauty of it. Like I started my podcast as well because I was struggling to, I guess, find my voice in the corporate world. And I'm like, I'm not tripping, right? It's not me. I'm not bugging. Like how I'm feeling, it's not just me, right? So I reached out to people to find out, am I bugging? Like, are you going through the same thing as me? And what I realized is that, yeah, we do share a lot of the same experiences. It's just that we didn't have those safe spaces to express them and to build camaraderie with each other. Because I think this industry has a way of pitting you against other women. Like, you know, there's only enough room for a couple of us. So, and we,
you know how many conversations, sorry to cut you off, but you know how many conversations I've had with other women who are in the music business who I came up with. And as we were coming up, for whatever reason, and this is air quotes, for whatever reason, we didn't like each other, right? And as we grew in our careers and we gotten better and we realized, okay, she's here to stay. Okay, she's here to stay. And then we formed a relationship, right? We both realized that somebody in the industry tried to put something in our ear about the other person.
Of course. I don't understand
And we
that.
real like
I
the
don't
whole
understand
putting
it.
people against each other is a very real tactic.
Yeah.
That at first I didn't realize that it was a real thing until I had this experience with multiple people, and now we're more mature women who are open and willing to talk about stuff. And it's like, okay, girl, let's go grab a drink. And when you grab a drink, you realize, oh, we just was like not liking each other for no reason because somebody put different things in our ear about the other person, and we never even came to the table to have a conversation. And it's so petty.
It is. And it's unfortunate because you don't see that happening with the men. You see that mostly, happening to the women. And,
they intentionally do it with the women. Yeah.
I don't understand that. But this is one of those things that, like, once we become more comfortable just coming to each other and learning to lean on each other, sometimes even outside of just business, like, hey, girl, I'm just checking up on you. Is everything good? Like, I have friends that have kids in this industry, and I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't do it right now. I stress already by myself with my dog. Imagine having a kid or a family, the kind of, pressure that a woman might have. So I just reach out to my friends. I'm like, are you good? Listen, if you need a babysitter, like, let me know. Just to get them to understand, like, they're not in this by themselves. They've got support.
Well, don't wait till they say they need a babysitter. Just tell them which day you babysit because they probably will never ask.
You're right.
So as a mom, just tell them, hey, girl, I'm babysitting on Friday. Yeah.
You're right. Okay, I will be a little bit more proactive with that.
Yes.
But it's so sad that people look at, it's one thing to have like friendly competition amongst people, like obviously that kind of energy motivates you to do better at your job. And it's like what they call a sword sharpens swords kind of thing. Like, I don't know if that's the real
iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, there we go. Same difference. Iron kind of thing. But to deliberately do that to pin other people against you or to make it seem like you don't know what you're doing is a whole nother ball game. So I love that you shared that. Thank you for that. Did you have any mentors in the music industry? And if so, what was how important is it to have a mentor?
Mentorship is extremely important. Like, I feel like the mentors that I met along the way, unfortunately, they were all men. Every woman that I tried to build as a mentor, for whatever reason, it didn't work out, which is a part of the reason why I'm very gung-ho about mentoring other women, is because it's something that I didn't have as I was coming up, and I wish that I did have it. But I also realized that mentorship can come in different forms. Like, it doesn't have to be that you're speaking to this person once a week. It can be a person that you might talk to them twice a year, but every time you talk to them, they're able to provide you some insight. They're able to give you direction about whatever it is that you're looking to do. And so I think that oftentimes people misconstrue what the mentor-mentee relationship should look like because they have these expectations of like, oh, I always have to be able to access you. And I think that's a little bit unrealistic. So I think managing what you think that relationship looks like is very important. I'm a part of the Femme Forward mentor program with Heather Lowry, and this is my second year doing it. And it's been really great because I've seen tremendous growth between me and my mentee in this last year. Like, I've helped her renegotiate her role at her job. I helped her to advocate for more money. And it's like those little things is what I wish that I would have had as I came up. There are plenty of times that I took jobs and I got paid way less than I should have. But it's because I didn't know what to do or how to say it, or I was afraid of losing the opportunity. But if I would have had someone else that could help guide, that would have been helpful. But one of my biggest mentors, who also was the first person to give me like a full-time job in the business, is Chris Hicks. And so Chris is a well-known publisher, manager, music executive who started at Noontime in the 90s here in Atlanta. And he signed pretty much everybody that was walking around in Atlanta at the time. And so he's the person that really has helped me to keep my head on a swivel, at times, because there have been plenty of moments when I've wanted to walk away, when I have walked away and been like, I'm not doing the music business no more. And it's being able to have other people oftentimes who see something in you that you may not even see in yourself that advocate for you and kind of help keep you on track.
I love that. No, you're absolutely right. Andy, you're right. We got to establish boundaries and balance when it comes to your mentees. To your point, I feel like I didn't have as many mentors. Like, I'm in the industry now 10 years, so I have a long way, I feel like, to go. But when I do talk to my mentees, I see them more as friends instead of people that I am teaching about things. I'm more of like their therapist, which is now I've got to learn to say, no, we got to talk about like these kinds of things. But I see how a lot of the questions that they have for me lean towards like, how do I find my purpose in this business? And it's like, well, if you're looking for a job to give you purpose, I don't know if that's the route to go. I feel like everything that I've done that has filled my soul has been outside of work. It's just that I'm utilizing my resources and my skills and my connections from work to facilitate those things. And that's also a tricky line as well. So I wouldn't necessarily advocate for people doing that, but just to find something that fills your soul outside of work is important.
Yeah.
We're in a space that's hyper competitive. It does kind of feel like you have to go above and beyond, especially as a woman of color, to be acknowledged, for the work to be seen and respected. So what I would say to people coming up in the industry when it comes to mentorship is to find the thing that sets your soul on fire and do that outside of work. Give yourself some space to do that. And your job is what is going to help you pay your bills. Your job is what's going to help you to stay relevant, I guess, in the business. But the thing that you're putting your passion towards on the side is what's going to help elevate you to another level.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think that it's important to know stage of life that you're in, right? Sure. Because I think, especially now, I come across a lot of people that send me resumes and emails and, oh, I want to be your intern, I want to be your assistant, or I want to do digital marketing, or I want to do this. And a lot of them, bless their heart, Instagram has a lot of people confused on what work looks like. You don't come in the door being the CEO. You don't come in the door being the boss. Too many people want to be the boss, but they don't realize that in order to be the boss, you got to be the worker first. And so what I would say, depending on the season that you're in, I dedicated my whole 20s to being a worker.
Yeah.
Being on call for somebody else, to the hustle, to the grind, to all of that, because I knew that the goal was to soak up as much as possible, be it resources, relationships, knowledge. Like I was clear on the goal. The goal was, I'm going to know everybody in this business to where whatever it is that I'm trying to do, they going to know me. Right. But that was draining, but I knew it wasn't sustainable, but I knew, okay, I'm going to give this my 20s, and I gave it a whole decade.
Like, I mean, that's what it takes. You got to put yourself out there.
I knew what that was. And so when you're in that season, you keep your head down, you do the work. You keep your head down, you do the work. I feel like a lot of people are trying to skip steps.
Yes, you're right.
And what's happening is, unfortunately, these companies are playing the game of giving you a title on paper that appeases you and makes you feel like you're doing something. It's not coming with the salary that should come with that title, right? But they're giving you a title because you care more about a title than the actual value.
Right.
And then when you get in the role, it's so easy to see that you don't know what you're doing. You skip steps. And so I am a huge proponent of not skipping steps. And when it's time for you to work, and here's the thing, even the CEO has to work. Okay. Like people think that because you're the boss and the CEO that you don't work and you just delegate and have a team. Like it's more work because like everybody has someone that they're reporting to. If you're the CEO of your own company, you still are servicing clients. Exactly. You still have somebody that you're reporting to. And so whether it's a client, whether it's a customer, like, so I think that mindset is just totally warped. And you get in it, and you on Instagram, you see all of these CEOs who are in Capri, Italy, and they on jet skis and they doing this boss life, and you think that you don't have to work. Like,
no, totally right. No, and that was so. I had a conversation with a mentee yesterday, and she was asking me like, "You seem to have it all together. Like everything's going well for you." And I'm like, "Really? You don't see the losses. You don't see the struggle. You don't see the rejections. You don't see the money being lost." You don't see all of that stuff. You only ever see the stuff that I want you to see. So at the end of the day, it is about the challenges, about the journey, the highs and the lows, and the things that those obstacles placed in your way help to create character and to strengthen who you are as a person. I'm learning every single day along the way. I prefer to work for myself though than someone else, help someone else. Like I would just be real. I've done that, like I said, for 10 years.
Yeah.
Now I'm in that space where it's like I've got the skills, the resources, the knowledge to do it. I'm gonna go for it. So
yeah.
So we already talked about some of the challenges that women of color face in the music industry. Thank you so much for sharing all of those gems. What would you say was your mama I made it moment where you realized you were headed in the right direction? And what characteristics do you attribute to having reached that point?
I think my mama I made it moment for me is when I started my company, King Creative Group, and when I got my first like 6-figure client. That was my, okay, somebody believed in me. It wasn't Brittney with this company. I wasn't attached to another big label, or I wasn't attached to another big artist. It was me on the strength of me. And so I think that it's different. I think a lot of people hold their identity in the company that they work for, right? But if they were to stand alone, a lot of people would not answer the phone for them, right? And so one of the things that I hang my hat on is my relationships are real. The people who rock with me, whether I am at a major label or I am not doing anything and I'm just on my own watching Netflix every day. When I call them, they answer. And so like, I really value the relationships that I've been able to cultivate in the 17 years that I've been in business, in the music business, because oftentimes a lot of the people that I still deal with today, like one of my clients is Quality Control Music, and Coach K is the classic story of like how your relationships just grow with you. I met Coach when I was working the front desk in college at Patchwork Studios.
Wow.
And at the time, he was managing Jeezy and Gucci Mane, and I was just the girl at the front desk. And we connected years later when he saw several of the things, how I was moving in the industry. We reconnected. At that time, they had just started QC. It was probably maybe a year in. And he was like, Brittney, we need help. And that was right at the time that I had started King Creative Group. And we talked, and I told him what I was doing and what I was able to do. And he brought me in as I handle all the publishing for them. But that was because one, I believed in myself. I spoke up. I knew what value I could bring to the table. But more importantly, he knew me. And he knew me from when I was, he saw that I put in the work. He saw that I didn't skip steps. He saw that I was committed to the goal all those years later. And that is what made him believe. And so for me, like, that's my aha moment, is just like, I value my relationships, know what I bring to the table. All of my clients know that I go hard, which is why it's best for me to be on the outside, because I don't have to play those political games and be cute. Like, I'm going to be me and I'm going to advocate for my clients, and those, they know how I move. So that was my made it moment, was like, wow, you just got your own 6-figure client, and that was based on you.
And that's such a major key too, is to develop real relationships in the business, like not to come from a transactional point of view. And that's I gotta admit, like, I'm an Aries, so I tend to do a lot of things by myself. Like, I always feel like I got to do it by myself. And what I've learned as an entrepreneur is I can't do everything by myself. I need some people for support, but you can go about it in a way that's like, listen, what do I have to offer that would entice you to want to work with me? Or have you heard of what I've done in the past? Are we connected in some way? Someone that can vouch for what I've done. And I think that's just as important as just like cold calling someone. Hey, I have this service. I want to see if we can do business together. Da, da, da. It's beyond that. And I think those are the connections that, like you said, will stay with you as you transition. So,
I mean, you just never know who's watching.
Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of creepy, but it is what it is. Everyone.
And in our business, people are absolutely watching, and you just never know who's watching you. So it's important to just operate from a place of excellence in everything you do. That's one thing that I learned working with Puff. Like, everything you operate from a place of excellence. You don't know who's watching. Yeah.
Yes, love it. So what advice would you give other women of color in the music business?
I would just say, know who you are. This industry will test you and try you, and not even just for women. I think that it's so important to have a strong foundation and sense of self in the music business and the entertainment business as a whole, because if you don't know who you are, then you allow this industry to tell you who you are, and that's not what you want. Because the Hollywood, I've seen it change so many people. And one of the things that I'm extremely grateful for is that I'm grounded in who I am. I'm grounded in my faith. I'm grounded in what's important to me. I'm grounded in my values. And with that, I've been able to find peace in knowing when something is for me and when something is not for me. Yeah. And I say no to things more than I say yes, because I know that value. And I think as a woman, I've seen so many other young ladies get caught up in the hype of wanting to be around certain powerful men, or believing that them doing certain things will put them in better positions down the road. And I've literally just seen it backfire. So I think it's important to have that sense of who you are and not allow this industry to tell you who you are.
Big facts. Yes. And stay in your lane. Don't go chasing waterfalls, as they say.
Exactly.
And we talked about this too, but in your opinion, how can women of color advocate for each other in this field?
I think just that. I mean, when you see a woman doing something dope, cheer her on. Say, I see you, sis. This is dope. Share the information. Pass it along to a friend or someone that you think could utilize it. I think us being able to do just that. If there's someone that you would like to have a conversation with, reach out. I reach out to people all the time on Instagram. Like, hey girl, I like what you're doing. Let's grab a coffee. Yeah. And I've built so many relationships just based off of that. So I think the way that we advocate is by advocating, is by saying, hey, how can I help you? What do you need? And then actually following through on those things.
Love it. I absolutely agree. And I can attest to that. I met you through Candace, but I think our communication, being on Instagram as well as in email, it was always very warm energy that I received from you. So that's also really appreciated when someone does reach out, being welcomed to have a conversation is
right.
Part of it. So I appreciate you, and honestly, just everything that you said, like I said, rings really true to me and my story. So I appreciate all of the gems that you provided for this audience. And
you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. What can we expect from Brittney in the future? What projects excite you right now?
On the music front, several of my clients are releasing projects this year. Stay tuned. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Brittney King Brock, as well as Women Like Me. If you're in Atlanta, we're definitely about to be hosting community events and activities with the Women Like Me community. If you'd like to know more about that, feel free to send me a message either on Instagram, or you can visit my website, BrittneyKingBrock.com, for more information. And I'm also about to launch a coaching program soon that I'm super excited about. That will be just basically what we're talking about: professional development, mindset coaching from a holistic perspective. So super excited to meet other women who support on their journeys and be able to share where I can.
Love it. Well, we're definitely looking forward to everything that you have in store for us. And thank you so much for being on the show, Brittney.
Of course. Thank you. I had fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Until next time.
Remember, stay positive, inspired, and true to yourself. Go out there and kill it. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Pub Royalty Queen Podcast.